Through the concrete cracks worn weary by work boots and high heels. Through the concrete cracks showered in tears of sorrow, tears of joy. Through the concrete cracks rumbled by reverberations of 100 years, a flower on the hill takes its first breath, and a grand hope springs. Welcome to the Spring Street podcast at the intersection of creation and destruction in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. And now, a word from the sponsors. This podcast is sponsored by Starship Kairos, a podcast studio available for bookings in downtown Los Angeles. Starship Kairos is where my guests and I make this show happen. Soundproofed, cozy, and equipped with professional audio gear, Starship Kairos is an ideal location for any type of podcast. Starship Kairos offers a full suite of services including content consultation, mixing and mastering, and custom jingle writing. For rates and booking, check them out on Instagram at Starship Kairos or click on the link in the description. And now, let's dive in. Welcome to the Spring Street podcast here at Starship Kairos. Welcome. How you doing?
So fun. This is so exciting. So fun.
It's pretty cool that you're here because this is the first time that I've had somebody on the podcast who we just connected via the internet.
Good old Instagram.
Good old Instagram. Sliding into those DMs.
Right.
But it's great. And then we actually got to meet in person on St. Patrick's Day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We both did some bus tours. I saw your bus. You saw my van.
Yeah.
And now here we are at the podcast
Yay,
studio.
this is so fun.
Yeah. So you live in school bus called...
Gratitude.
Your bus is called Gratitude.
So I always like to introduce myself as... I'm Liz, and my dog Logan. We live in Gratitude, the meditation bus.
Mm-hmm.
Skoolie. Skoolie.
Skoolie, which is crazy because we were both at Skoolie.
Oh, yeah.
But we didn't meet there.
I know. How unusual.
Yeah. Skoolie is actually a little bit of like a thread that connects a lot of people who've been on this podcast.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I've had 2 other people who were at Skoolie on this podcast, and then there's another guy who he's wandering around like a typical
as we all are, right?
Van lifer, but eventually he'll be on this show as well. Shout out
Cool.
to Sam. Sam, I'm waiting for you.
Oh, you mean like Serendipity Bus, Sam?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm sure there's a few Sams.
Well,
out
shouts
there.
out to Sam from the Serendipity Bus.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But Skoolie was just like such a beautiful event, and it was my first. It was my first time. Was it your first time too?
It was my first time too. Yeah, it was so sweet.
How did you find out about Skooliepalooza?
I actually found out about Skooliepalooza through the good old Instagram.
Wow.
Right?
Instagram doing good things in the world.
I know. Well, and what's really interesting about that experience is when I first saw the ad for it, I was like, Skooliepalooza. I'd heard of it previously, and then I was like, but in the past, I had no reason to go. Like, it didn't really call to me. But now I live in a schoolie, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm supposed to go. I guess, it literally has my name on it.
Yeah. I mean, you're part of that specific community.
Totally, right? And I was like, well, let me fill it out, over the next couple of days. And then sure enough, I was like, I guess I'm going to Skoolie.
Yeah, amazing. So let's backtrack a little bit. You've been in the school bus for not too long, right?
I bought the school bus in August of 2022.
Nice. From
Eric and Sarah, and they converted the whole school bus, and the bus was originally named Bonafide Bus.
Oh, so it had a bit of a renaming.
Yes, whoa. Yeah. And they had traveled in it for about 2 years. And, as life would have it, impermanence happens. And something happened to where they're like, okay, I'm going to work in this place. We're not traveling in the bus. Let's give it to someone who will use it. And so they actually put it on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
And I found it there. What was really fun about that whole experience is that they were asking, for $55,000 for it. Yeah. And initially,
which is a good deal,
right? I mean, compared to the Mercedes,
crazy. Yeah.
I was like, that's super affordable.
Yeah, for a house. Yeah, A house on wheels?
Yeah. So, and initially when I was looking at school buses, I was like, well, I don't want price to deter me from checking one out.
Mm-hmm.
That was really important to me because I was like, if this is my school bus and I'm like not doing it, I'm not checking it out because of the price, then I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm putting myself in a box and really limiting myself because so much of the time we might say, oh, that's too expensive.
Yeah.
To so many things.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take myself out of that box and just like give myself that permission to go at least check out this bus. So then that way I can, at least know what maybe I like something about the bus that is really important for when I actually see the bus that's for me. But I showed up and that bus and we fell in love.
Love at first sight.
I know. I feel like I married my school bus.
I love that.
And yeah, and she's like, it was the first time I ever drove a school bus, and that was the first test drive. But I was like, I'm in beast mode, and her diesel engine, she's like, like she's like, I'm awake, I'm alive, I'm ready for adventure, and I was like, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah, was it intimidating driving a school bus for the first time?
It was a new experience, but I'm not easily intimidated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. It's a good quality to have, probably.
Yeah, I kind of go into things like, I got this. I always say I am divinely taken care of and I can handle anything that comes my way.
Oh, all right. Damn. That's some real energy right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right? Because it's like, and it's about life is a game. Like, let's have fun, right? And how do we have fun? We have fun when we have confidence. And it's like, let's move into that space of like, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
Even if it's scary.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things that my MO or mode of operation is like stepping into vulnerability. And so it's like stepping out of your comfort zone. And I call it the playful path of vulnerability. So it's really just like, when you wake up every day, be like, okay, how can I get out of my comfort zone today?
Yeah.
Right? Because when we baby step out of our comfort zone and then we realize we're still safe, then our comfort zone actually expands.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely. Yeah, I think the times in my life where I've grown the most have been stepping out of my comfort zone. And it's always uncomfortable.
Well, can you give me an example?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was 20, I dropped out of college and I went to Europe to find my family in Belarus, like my long lost relatives. First time traveling on my own. I was going into through countries where I didn't speak the language. And it was also very uncertain. I just had like a photo of my family in Belarus.
Wow. And you went by yourself?
Went by myself. Yeah. So like so many things along that way were incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, like dropping out of college, telling my parents, hey, I'm dropping out of college. Trying to just like figure out how to survive on my own. Then going to Europe. And I remember being in Germany. And like that was kind of when it really hit me that I was somewhere where like people don't speak English, which actually a lot of people in Germany speak English, but like just that, like get off the bus, my English speaking friends like went their way and I was like, oh man, I am out here on my own and
did you at least have a translator?
I mean, I had my phone, but like, sprechen Sie Deutsch? Like, that's, sprechen Sie English? That's, I don't speak German.
Okay.
And, so that was, but to this day, that's been one of the most significant things that I feel like I've done in my life was that journey. And it was incredibly uncomfortable. And there were moments which were not fun and it was definitely scary. And, but I think the reward of doing that, like, is still, like, I'm still reaping the benefits.
What would you say the benefits are?
Oh, man. There's so many.
Well, your top 3.
Okay, well, I wrote a record.
Okay,
That
wow.
was called Belarus, and it's like very much inspired by I wrote just a lot of music inspired by that
nice.
experience. I would say another benefit was like really connecting with my roots and my heritage and having this sense of like where I'm from. Because for the last like several generations, like my family has just moved around.
Okay.
Like, you know, I was born in Canada, but then we moved to America.
Gotcha.
My parents were born in Canada and moved to America as well, obviously. But my grandpa was born in Belarus and moved to Canada. And like, there's just been like every generation. So my grandpa born in a different country, moved to a different country. My parents born in one country, moved to a different country. Me, kind of the same, and who knows where I'll end up. So it's like finding a place where we were all from. Or at least like where my family name is from.
Your roots.
Yeah. And being with people that had the same last name as me and looked like me. Like we looked like relatives. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is it. This is like where we're from.
I love that.
So that was powerful.
People who looked like me.
Yeah, not just like generally, but like we looked like we're cousins because we're cousins.
I love that. I love that so much.
So yeah, how about you? What's like an experience where you
wait, hold on. I wanted to just acknowledge you for sharing all that because you know, for you to find your roots in that way, do you feel very grounded having done that?
Yeah.
Right. And,
definitely.
And like connected, like you feel like you have like a home, a space that like, you're like, this is where I'm from.
Yeah. I think it just completes the story because, I mean, that's almost as ancient as it gets. Like the story kind of, I don't know where people were before the era of Belarus. I'm sure that the family has been there for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the farther you go back, less and less migration was happening. You know, it's like, that's kind of where the origin was for probably centuries, you know? And I walked on the same roads that my grandpa walked on when he was a kid. And so for me, it's like...
Are they still like cobblestone streets?
Oh, they're dirt.
Oh.
We're talking about a village. Like this is... village in the south of Belarus. It's very
gotcha. A small village,
austere. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the village is beside this. The village is small. It's beside a city called Stolin. It's also kind of small, and the village is called Menkovici.
Menkovici. Nice.
And it's pretty small, maybe 1,000, 2,000 people.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I wanted to talk about like you having roots and feeling grounded, right, is because that's something that I'm really into teaching people about how to be grounded, how to feel connected in your human earth vessel, which is your body.
Yeah.
Right. We are having this human experience. And have you ever heard of the chakra system?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I'm not sure that I would say that I'm like super knowledgeable. But...
Okay, so I love that you're wearing a red sweater.
Okay.
Because the root chakra is like the base of the spine, and that is the color red. They say so. The chakras are like spinning wheels of energy within our body, mind, our spirit.
Yeah.
And typically they're along these. They're these energetic centers along the spine. And so our root chakra is at the base, the tip of the tailbone, and that's how we feel connected and grounded to the earth. Like gravity is pulling us down and keeping us on this earth. Yeah. Right. And so when we feel grounded and we feel safe in our human experience, then we can show up and have that confidence that I was talking about earlier of like, oh, I'm having this experience and I'm showing up, I'm feeling connected, I'm in my body. You know, and that's just like having roots and like knowing where you're from or even going to visit that place can really cultivate that strength in your root chakra. So that's just a little fun fact.
Interesting. I'm so, there's so much about you that I actually still don't know, which I'm really excited to like uncover and discover over the course of this podcast.
Yeah.
In terms of your journey, I know, were you at one point, you were teaching yoga, or do you still teach yoga?
Yes.
And did that like kind of, just tell me about the journey.
Okay, the journey. Well, whoo, I'm feeling some emotion coming up in me.
Yeah.
As you just even asked me that, but it's like, yes, if we're to back up and go on a journey, and I'll try to make this in the Cliff's Notes version. But in 2008 to 2010, I was dating Michael. And shouts out to Michael because we dated for 2 years and then he died. Yeah, it was a camping accident and it was unexpected. Him and I were like planning marriage and children, and we like named our kids that we wanted to have. And, you know, and I was 24 at the time. So baby. Yeah. And, but him passing away, like, kind of opened the door to my own spiritual awakening. Okay, so this door was open, and the reason the door opened because he passed away, but I could still feel his unseen presence. Like, he was still very much alive, and he's still very as much alive for me today. He's like my spirit guide now. But Michael passed away, and, you know, I was like in the deepest depths of my grief. Shouts out to Greta.
Yeah, that's right.
My grief named Greta. I love you.
Yeah.
So, Greta showed up, and I was like, what's this? Like, my whole life, you know, you're like, why did you leave me here? And you question all these things when you're in those deepest depths of grief. And you're just like, why am I still here? I don't want to live anymore. And, you know, you're just so sad because impermanence just like throws you off the train tracks. And you're just like, when it's unexpected, and even when it is expected, you know, I mean, I know my dad has also passed away as well, but it was like, that was expected. He was on hospice. He had cancer, you know. So anyways, going back to Michael. So I had dreams of Michael for almost every night for 3 months after he died.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, this is very unfamiliar. But it felt like I was hanging out with him the night before.
Whoa.
And I would have dreams of him where he would come visit me, like where I was sleeping, and I would wake up in the bed and he'd be there in the room and we'd like have a chat.
Yeah.
And I actually got to a point in my dreams where I knew he passed away. And whenever I would ask him, like, hey, so what happened? Like, I know you died. And whenever I would ask him that, he would disappear and I'd wake up. And I was like, oh, So then I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to keep dreaming and having that dream with him. So I actually started to learn to not need to know. I learned to not need to know why he died. And I was just like, that's irrelevant to me now. All that matters is that I'm having this dream with you now and that I can still feel your unseen presence in my waking state. And so after that, I was like, I started to question this, like, what's this life and death stuff about? You know, I was born and raised like conservative Christian, you know, so it's like, you know, heaven or hell, and, you know, don't make God angry, you know, that belief. And so I was like, Michael's gone, but I still feel him. And so I started reading a lot of books about near-death experiences. Have you ever read a book about near-death experience?
I feel like I've read, maybe not a book, but like articles.
Okay. Yeah. Or you've heard about them.
Yeah.
Right. There's actually a show on Netflix that.
Really? What's it called?
Something, I don't know. I don't know what the exact name was, but you could probably just Google.
Type in near-death experience.
Near-death experiences.
Netflix.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So after I started reading those books, it really shifted my perspective, because all the books have in common is like, oh, there's nothing to fear.
Yeah.
it's like beautiful and like pure love and just, yes, people tend to see themselves like floating above their body or whatever. But it's like nothing to fear. And there was one book specifically, Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani. And she describes it so eloquently where she's like, it's like you're living in a warehouse with the lights turned off and you're only living with a flashlight. Like that's our human experience. When you have a near-death experience, when you die, it's like someone turned on the warehouse lights and you see all these colors and lights and all the beautiful, like, just you're in awe of like what's possible. Infinite potential of possibilities and colors you've never seen and smells you've never smelled, and then it's like you go back into your body and it's like someone turned off the lights, but what's there, even though you might not be able to see it.
Yeah. Wow.
And I really feel like that's what faith is. I'm a spiritual person now. I wouldn't call myself religious, but I have faith in knowing that anything is possible. There are infinite potentials of possibilities and nothing at the same time. That's how I describe God. That's my description of God these days.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so Michael passed away. I read books about near-death experience, and I no longer fear death. Death is a transition. It's just a transition.
Yeah.
And my actual belief is that I am God. I am the infinite potentials of possibilities and nothing at the same time. And when I choose to be, I'm like kind of hanging out as God, which is oneness, like all things. And then I'm like, I would like to have a human experience. And the moment that I say that, it's like I'm conceived into a womb. And then when we're birthed into our human earth vessels. So then when we die, when our human earth vessel dies, we're actually being birthed back into God, into oneness. Ooh.
Yeah. It is a very trippy thing to think about. Existence, birth, death. I mean, where did we come from? Where did we go? I definitely think about that kind of stuff.
What's your perspective?
I think that I actually maybe have somewhat of a similar perspective to you. I mean, for one, my baseline is I think that there's a lot going on that I don't fully grasp or understand. Like, I feel like there's so much more beyond me that I have a sense maybe of it, but I couldn't be like, this is what it is, so that being said, I think that I also view death as a transition. I think that it's not something to be afraid of because it's inevitable. And I think that the reason why we're typically afraid of it is because we hold on so tightly to things that ultimately are not within our control. I think that there's
Totally.
And I think that there's a lot of problems that come out of that. I think that when people try to control and try to hold on, that is where you begin to get greed and also conflict and disputes. And I think that the opposite of that, kind of like letting go of feeling like we're in control and just embracing the present experience, being like, wow, I'm here. Like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And one day I won't be here in this same experience, and who knows where it's going to be. But I think that the more that I can get in tune with that, for one, there's a lot less to stress about, because a lot of things that we make a big deal in our mind that we think is like, oh my God, this is the end of the world if this doesn't happen. It's like, we're chilling. Like, we are honestly just just relax. Just like we're here, and that's
Exactly.
incredible. All the things that I've gotten to experience up until this point in my life, I'm just grateful for.
Gratitude. Shouts out.
Gratitude. And wherever I head next, like it's just another adventure. Who knows? Like energy it's not created, it's not destroyed. Like,
Right.
so if I have this energy in me, like where does that go when this body, falls away?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I'm very curious about all of it because we have this spirit inside of us. Like we're conscious.
Yeah.
We like have this like story that we're a part of, this narrative. And yet at the same time, we're also like physical, and there's the brain and all the chemical reactions that are happening, and like that affects our emotions and our thoughts and our memories and our belief systems.
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, what's the connection there, like between, mind and body and spirit. But at the end of the day, I think that like ego, having this like sense of like self as like apart from everybody else, is ultimately what creates like a lot of distress in the world. Like when we begin to view ourselves as differentiated from other people.
Totally.
Because the more that if you look at all humans collectively as like one thing, one organism, one entity, you wouldn't do harm to something that is also yourself.
Right.
Yeah. And vice versa. In order to do harm, you have to distinguish, like, that thing is not me, so I can hurt it, And I think that that's ultimately like what war, like the ultimate version of that is like war and murder.
Or they say hurt people.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So it's like some people don't even realize that they're hurting themselves while they're hurting others. And they don't recognize they have choice. So I was going to say about what you're talking about, how in the sense of, when people, you're talking about having ego and greed and, separateness. And it's like in that place, it's like control. Right? It really, all those things are under the umbrella of control.
Yeah.
And the whole existence and circling it back around to death is that, our human, we cannot conceptualize what it's like after death.
Yeah.
And yes, a few people have had an experience and they talk about it, but that's just like, one perspective, or a few people's perspectives. But really, ultimately, I think most people are like, well, I don't know what that looks like, and it's scary. And especially with growing up religion, it's like, if you piss off God, you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
Right? And so we have this like fear of like, oh no, death,
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, what if we surrendered? What if we recognized where we have control of? Right? This is where confidence comes back in, and is the sense of, for example, when I'm triggered, which means like emotionally upset or pissed off. Typically, it's emotions come up like anger, resentment, annoyance. I'm triggered, something outside of me, something someone said, they did, or something I saw that like my inner peace is now disturbed. Right? And so it's like in that moment when I recognize I'm triggered, I can pay attention that something outside of me disturbed my internal state. And so now what do I have control of? I have control of how I think about it. I have control of how I respond to it. And I have control of, do I want to keep feeling this emotional state, or do I want to change the emotion? Right? And so when we can get to that place of recognizing when we're triggered, when our internal state has been changed, right? And emotions are those chemical changes that you speak of. And so it's like with this awareness that I have choice in my experience, then I can choose, I usually say when someone triggers me, now I'm like, oh, thank you for triggering me because because it's my stuff. Right? It's like I'm the only one affected by it.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like within me. And so now it's like, okay, and now I can sit with it and make friends with my emotions. So this is what I teach my clients, is to make friends with your emotions. And it's like, okay, what's the trigger? I'm angry, I'm angry because I didn't get my way.
Yeah.
And I laugh about it because this is the story that I'm creating.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this is like the habitual part of the work that I've done is like, oh, we're always creating stories, right? You and I may have watched something, but I perceived it differently than you did, right? And so it's like my experience is completely unique to me.
Yeah.
And so another thing that I teach my clients is like self-responsibility. And also I teach them tools to self-regulate their nervous system. And you talk about the brain, right? So we have the brain, and our nervous system is like really the chemical, the electricity that moves throughout our whole body. But there's two states. There's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And the sympathetic is that like fight or flight, perceived threat. I need to defend myself.
Yeah.
I'm triggered. I need to run or like fight. And then the parasympathetic is what I teach with yoga and meditation and breathing and being in this awareness of being the observer that you have choice. And that's like the rest, digest, heal, repair mode. And so when we're aware of like, this is where our human earth vessel is like our physicality. And so it's like, I'm triggered. I'm feeling angry. Do I want to keep feeling angry? Why am I feeling angry? And I'll go journal, right? That's a tool I use.
It's powerful.
Yeah, do you journal?
I do, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
I journal a lot.
Right? And how does it benefit you?
Oh man. I think for me journaling, it feels like an outlet to just channel, like, okay, I just need to sit down and just write it out. And somehow that just makes me, I don't know, feel better. Just feel more relaxed.
You're getting, instead of having that bandwidth of mental space, it's no longer there because you're getting it out. You're writing it out.
Yeah.
Right?
And then returning to it.
Right.
Which I actually don't do maybe as much as I should. But returning to it, sometimes you read something you wrote and you're like, wow, I was stressed out about that. I'm not stressed out about that anymore. Like, and it just puts things into perspective, because sometimes something seems like it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
And then you look at it a year later and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I was tripping about that.
Right.
Not a big deal.
100%. I wanted to show you my journal.
Yeah, let's see
I
it.
get all my colors, all my favorite colors. So I have a whole thing of pens of different colors.
Nice.
And then I put all my favorite stickers on the front and the back.
Yeah.
Of just the composition book.
Nice.
And then
so you handwrite all your journal?
I do handwrite, yeah.
Nice.
And I draw pictures.
Yeah.
And I use different colors. And then I tend to use a lot of arrows, like if there's something that is really important and I'm like, I need to remember this.
Yeah. Do you go back and read over your journals a lot?
Oh, yeah, especially because I'm writing my book, right? My personal memoir. So this is actually bullet points of my book.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right. And so, yeah, I'm always looking back and I'm like, wait, what was I thinking?
Is your book finished? Or are you still...
It's not finished yet because it's a personal memoir.
So maybe it's never finished.
Exactly. It's maybe I do
new editions every year.
Exactly. Or part 1, part 2.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like, but I'm really excited to have it in an audiobook version. format because I love the sound of my own voice.
Wow. Do you need a place to record the audio?
I do need that place.
Okay.
I think I know one.
That's been one vision for this space.
Oh, cool.
Is also doing
And what is this
audiobooks.
space?
The space is called Starship Kairos.
Starship Kairos.
Yeah, Starship
Beautiful.
Kairos.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a starship.
Right? We're headed to Alpha Centauri right now.
Yay, yes. Okay, now I know you told me about Alpha Centauri before, but tell me again.
Oh, man. You're going to put me on the spot here.
I'm putting you on the spot. You're welcome. Vulnerability.
Let's see. Alpha Centauri, if I'm not mistaken, is another. I think it's the closest next galaxy.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
Do you know?
I don't know.
I should know this.
But what's the significance of the starship? Why are we recording these podcasts? That's okay. That's right. I did tell you all about. Okay, so yeah, so there's a little bit of like a mythology, a backstory, so mysterious,
if you will, to the space. That is kind of still being developed, but and I can only really say so much on this podcast.
Oh, okay.
It's, got to keep it under wraps. But
gotcha.
We're gathering. we're gathering some knowledge. We're gathering. We're putting things in the time capsule, and they're gonna be taken to Alpha Centauri.
Yes. I'm so honored to be in this time capsule.
Yeah.
And really what I love about that is that all the podcasts, anyone who has a podcast, they're also creating time capsules for their own universe, for their own, it's like really leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
For other generations beyond us. After you and I transition, our voices are recorded and this wisdom is being shared.
Yeah. Right?
And I love that so much. So
yeah,
I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, it's definitely part of I'm honored to have you. It's awesome. I think for me, and it really ties in with what we've been talking about, like death and transition. I've had a lot of people pass away in my life and it really started when I was like 15. 15, I had a friend pass away, and it was just like the beginning of like a lot of people that I knew passing away. And so it made a really big impact on me. And I think it really made me question, like, how do I use my time with the time that I've been given?
Totally.
And the time that I have that those people didn't have that same amount of time. And so there's something, this is so crazy. I remember I was bartending at my old university.
Nice.
And this girl told me something, and I wish I remember her name. Like, it was just like, it was like one of those one-off conversations that just like leaves you, like it's just with you for the rest of your life.
But you remember it.
I remember the
You
conversation.
remember what she looked like?
No.
No?
No.
Not even.
I don't even remember what she looked like.
But what are you remembering? The wisdom?
What she told me. She said, there are 3 deaths in the human experience.
Wow.
The first one is the physical. So, like when you die, you know. The second is the decomposition of your body.
Okay.
So when your body is fully disintegrated into the earth.
Yeah.
And the last one is when your name is spoken for the last time.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's heavy. It's crazy. And that will stick with me for the rest of my life because it just, I don't know, it was what I needed to hear right in that moment. And so for me, I think a lot about like, how am I spending my time and what can I do that will contribute to, I don't know, the world around me when I am no longer here in this earth vessel. You know, and I think that art, I think that creativity, I think everyone's creative. I think the creative spirit is in everybody. And like, I'm not a Christian, but I grew up Christian. And one thing that I really do take away from the Genesis story is it's really interesting to me when it talks about like being created in the image of God. And I think that for a long time I didn't know what that meant. Maybe I still don't. But when I read that, I think, okay, well, if God is a creator and we're made in the image of a creator, I think when we create, we're living in that image of God, of like the divine. Like there is something divine and mystical and magical about creating. It's like, where did this come from? You know, like
so beautiful.
Some like when I write a song, or when someone paints a painting, or when somebody like writes a poem, you're bringing something into this world that wasn't there before. And I also am not so sure that we have like ownership over that either. We just happen to be the thing that it came through.
Ooh, I love that.
I think that is honestly part of what makes life worth living, is like when people create. When people create, they make this world a more interesting, fascinating place, a more beautiful place. And so for me, I think that creating is one of the most important things that I can do, because it's beyond something to myself. It's something that other people can enjoy and experience and take away. And I think that I really owe that perspective to those experiences that I had losing a lot of people in my life. So
yeah, it really made you appreciate what you have.
Gratitude.
Yes, gratitude.
So much gratitude.
I always say everything just ends up, like, everything always comes back to gratitude. And one thing I wanted to ask you was, you talk about, like, you know, leaving an impact on the community and how you're showing up and how you're living your life. Like, if you could describe that in a sentence, how would you describe it?
It's going to sound cheesy, but I think, like, you know, leaving it better than I came into it. I think that is like the best goal.
Nice.
You know? 'Cause you don't necessarily, maybe sometimes you do choose the situation you come into, but not in terms of like the world you're born into, like big picture. Like, you're born in the body you're born in, you know, in the community, and all that context is like completely out of your control. Like, you don't get to choose that. I mean, maybe you get to choose what city you live in or neighborhood. That
right after.
Yeah, but you know, you're born with the circumstances you're born into, and so I think the goal is to just try to leave it a better place than you came into it.
Yeah, I love that.
What about you?
That's a snap. I do like, I resonate with that, because I say, I have a frequency as you do, right? And because we are energy, and we all have this, even our voice is a frequency.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way we move our bodies.
This podcast is a frequency.
Totally, right? And so I say, when people find me, I leave people better off than when they found me.
I like that.
But really, my mission statement is to find play, like to play in living vulnerably. Because it's like, if I'm a soul having a human experience, or God having a human experience, I say God is expressing self, capital S, self. God is experiencing self through me, through Liz. God is expressing self through Sheldon. Right? And so it's like, if that is the case, then what better way to make things fun and interesting but getting out of our comfort zones?
Yeah.
And living vulnerably. Yeah. And like, when I look at challenges, when challenges arise, I'm like, ooh, a challenge. And I'm like, I got this. You know, and then I go into this, sometimes I'm like, it came at me really fast. I wasn't expecting it. But I'm able to go into a place where I'm like, okay, what do I have control of? I have control of my thoughts, how I respond, and how I feel about it. And then I'm like, what are some solutions? Like, this is something I've been practicing for a while now, But because I practice when I'm not stressed or when obstacles are not around, and what I'm practicing is living vulnerably, right? Stepping outside of my comfort zone and doing things differently. And so because I'm practicing that when I'm not stressed, then it's familiar when I am stressed. I'm like, I need a solution, and I like reach out, I pull out my toolbox, and I'm like, I need a tool, and I'm like, do some breath work,
Yeah.
or like meditation. Meditation is my favorite thing. There's a quote by Mark Twain, and he says, there are the two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why you were born. Have you heard that one?
No.
Okay. Well,
I like that.
Yeah. And so, the day I found out why I was born is when I met my meditation teacher. Shouts out to Catherine from Effortless Mantra.
Yeah.
But so I have a Vedic meditation, and we use bija mantras, which are just seed sounds.
Whoa. There's some words you got to explain there for me. Vedic?
Vedic, yeah.
What is that? What does that mean?
Vedic philosophy comes from India.
Okay.
Right. And so it's just another style of philosophy, just like Buddhism is another philosophy. And, our Western cultural, like Christian, Catholic, those are all different like styles and of like how to live, like beliefs, And so Vedic philosophy teaches about, she taught me how to meditate.
Yeah.
So she gave me my own personal mantra, which a mantra is just something I repeat in my head. For example, Om.
Okay.
Om is a mantra, or Shanti is a mantra. That means peace.
What does Om mean?
Om is like the infinite expansion of the universe. So yeah, everything's always in expanding mode. Right. That's kind of impermanence. Everything's always changing.
Yeah.
Everything's always expanding. Right. And so that's Om. So when you chant Om, you want to chant Om. Om. Om.
Om.
Yeah. And it's like, but when you close your eyes.
Kind of puts a smile on your face when you
Om. Yeah. And you feel more at peace.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's just I call it a self-healing, intuitive freedom technique. And so I have a Patreon, and I offer how to shift tutorials. So I share different techniques to how to shift your perspective when you're feeling stressed or in conflict. And but chanting, breath work, moving your body. I do a lot of I'll put on my favorite music, and I like to dance naked in the bus.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, I'm like, it's like the ultimate vulnerability.
Sure.
Nudity, right? And so it's like, yeah, I'm safe in my bus.
I think there's a power to that, by the way.
A power in what way?
Nudity. Like being naked in public.
Oh, well, yeah.
There
right?
was a nude beach on my university campus in Canada.
Oh, in Canada? Yeah. On campus? I love that.
And it's like one of my favorite beaches in the world. It's called Wreck Beach.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just a different world down there. Because it's kind of a journey to get there and to get back. So it feels like you're going away. So you go down all these stairs that you have to go back up.
Yeah.
And when you get there, you can't see the city. You can't see anything else except for the ocean.
Oh, nice.
And there's tons of people, young and old.
Always.
And definitely a lot old. but honestly, just literally everybody.
Yeah.
And
no discrimination.
No discrimination on that beach.
It's like
good vibes. Only good vibes.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time that I ever walked naked on that beach. And I think that it's that's in our society. That's one thing that's very protected. It's you cover yourself up,
totally.
And you keep that fully to yourself, and to just completely let that diminish And there's so many, I feel like, insecurities wrapped around that too, wrapped around our bodies and our appearances and how we look. And to just for a moment be like, you know what? I'm just a person.
I'm a human earth vessel.
Annie, I'm a human earth vessel, like all these other human earth vessels on this beach.
Yeah.
And, I was a baby and my body looked different, and I will be an old man one day and my body will look different.
Right.
And it's constantly changing and evolving, and that's life. And, that's fine. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
I think that there's something powerful in just experiencing that and just letting it go.
Totally, 100%.
Maybe I'm a nudist. Maybe.
Hashtag nudist party.
Next Protovision party. Oh my God.
No, I love nudity. It's like, also, our bodies are art.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has their own unique art by their own unique bodies, and so it's like really nice to appreciate it. And it's like, I wish we could just like see it in a non-sexual way, but I think that our culture, our society, it's like, it's sexualized,
Because it's so repressed.
Right. And yeah, and also because you talk about like self-consciousness, or like people are self-conscious of their own bodies because, what are we being fed? What are we being programmed?
Yeah. We're being marketed to.
Totally.
For things to spend money on.
Yeah. For example, like I shaved my legs like most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point, probably, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or so, I was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And I stopped doing it,
mm-hmm.
And I stopped shaving my armpits. And it's like, I love myself for my natural self,
Yeah.
And it's like, that was kind of like the first big step that I was like, I'm going to do things differently, and it was uncomfortable, especially my family's like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so it's like, but yeah, like the status quo, there's this like how you're supposed to look and how you're supposed to live your life.
Mm-hmm.
And, make sure you're doing a job that you can pay for your expensive house.
Yeah.
Right. And your expensive
pay your
card.
rent.
Right. And yeah. And it's like, why? Well, when I stop to think about that and be like, why are they telling me to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And I literally stopped watching the news, more than a decade ago. So it's like,
probably why you're so positive and happy.
Right? It's like when I see the news these days, it looks like I'm watching like a drama program.
Yeah. It literally feels like the end of the world every day on the news.
Yeah, and there's not much positive things on there. It's always like what should you be scared of next? You know, and I'm like, that does not serve me.
Hooked. It's like a drug, and you keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
Give me more bad news.
So,
I need my fix of bad news.
Totally. And it's like, we laugh about it, but like some people don't realize they have choice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just something that they're just don't recognize. And so one thing I always, this is something I write in my book, in the sense of, if you want to start doing things differently, stop watching the news.
Mm.
And maybe you don't like cold turkey it.
Yeah.
If you watch it every day, maybe watch it every other day.
Mm-hmm.
Baby steps. Maybe you watch it once a week. If you feel like you really need to be in the know of like what's going on, ask a friend who watches it. Mm-hmm. And then if like you need to know specifically about something, like, my friends in San Bernardino were like snowed in and they didn't have any help, so I wanted to like go check in on them. I literally asked them directly. I was like, hey, how are you guys doing? But yeah, I don't even have a TV in my bus. Nice. Or even when I had a studio, I lived in like Sherman Oaks, and I had a studio apartment, I didn't have a TV. Mm-hmm. It's like sometime every once in a while I'll watch Netflix, but I watch it on my laptop.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's like, how can we start to do things differently?
Yeah.
Right? Like you and I are living nomadically.
Yep.
That's totally different. We're doing things differently. Right? And so I'm actually really curious about like how you started your nomadic journey.
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to live in a van ever since I was 18.
Wow.
I remember being at university and just thinking to myself, why am I paying so much money in rent? And why is that the norm? Why is it that I'm going to leave this university and the expectation is that I'm just going to keep renting something, and the idea of owning a house just seems so far away, and houses are also expensive. So if I'm not paying rent, then I'm paying a mortgage. And so yeah, at 18, I was like, I want to live in a car or a boat or something. Like, I don't want to live in a freaking house and pay rent. I mean, I think maybe I can back this story up even further. So I grew up middle-class family, middle-class town, and I was always very cognizant of money, mostly because I had friends who had money, and I could tell the difference between like them and my family.
Yeah.
And I remember when my parents bought a house and I went to go to the mortgage office with them and they were signing their documents. I remember just thinking, like, how does this, I mean, I was like a kid at the time, but I remember being like, how does this work? These are such big numbers. Like, how in the world can anybody, like, you're going to be paying this for the next, like, few decades? Like, this is crazy. And I had a friend in high school. This was like when the recession happened. And he told me that you could buy a house in Detroit for $100. And so that piqued my curiosity because I was like, damn, sign me up.
Yeah.
If I can buy a house for $100, I'll go. Like, I don't understand how anybody's buying houses for hundreds of thousands of dollars when they're making, you know, certain salaries that you're going to be paying that for the rest of your life.
Right.
So that was the beginning of like I was always curious. And the other thing too is like I always loved houses and homes. I was always interested in architecture.
Nice.
I loved walking through construction sites with my dad. I wanted to like do construction. I loved like looking through my mom's like house magazines and just like looking at houses. So I was always very interested in like living situations. So fast forward, go to university, and I'm just kind of like, why am I paying rent? You know, now a lot of these ideas and like aspirations and dreams didn't really manifest till a little bit later on. So there was a period of time where I thought about living in a sailboat with my cousin while going to university.
Wow.
We didn't do that. I kind of wish we did. There was a time I also thought about just living in the woods.
Like in a tent?
Just in a tent.
Nice.
On the university campus. Didn't do that. I feel like I probably should have. But eventually I did go to Detroit and was very inspired by my time there. I would still love to go back to Detroit.
Did you buy your $100 house?
I didn't, but I did live in a $500 house that somebody else was. So I was living in the house of a writer. Shout out to Drew Phillip. I hope I said your last name right.
Nice.
He wrote a book called $500 House in Detroit. It's a really good book. It's about him buying a house for $500, spending the next decade building it back. It's a beautiful house.
Aww.
I agreed with him that I wouldn't like write about it or take any photos like while I was living there while his book was unpublished. But now that his book is published, I can talk about it, I think.
I think.
It's a great book. You should check it out. It's awesome. But so fell in love with Detroit. Would still like to go back there eventually one day and have a house. And but eventually graduated, moved to Los Angeles with my little brother, and we had our childhood minivan.
Nice.
And we lived in it for a year. And that was my first experience in the van life. And the reason why we did it was because we did not want to pay rent. I had no money at the time. Like, my brother had some money saved up. I had like $200 and a credit card that already had quite a lot of credit used on it. So, we just came and lived in the van for a year, went to the gym to shower and work out and hang out. We used the laundromat, worked at Trader Joe's. We had our little routine set up.
Nice. And
it was awesome. There were some challenges about living in a minivan with your brother. But, that the community that we were a part of, meeting other people in that world, it was the beginning for me for sure. And then a few years later, ended up in the round 2 van, the Sprinter van, Earl.
Nice.
Earl is the name of my van. So
shouts out Earl.
Shout out to Earl. Well, it's named after somebody who just passed away. Earl Barton. He was a famous tap dancer in Hollywood back in the day.
Oh, nice.
And I was fortunate enough to get to know him in like the last year and a bit of his life, and he let me use his tools to build the van. So shout out to Earl.
So sweet. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
But that's my
I love that.
story.
And as you were here's more vulnerability that you did, where you're just like, I'm going to take this minivan and go live in Los Angeles with my brother. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know where we're going to live or what we're going to be doing. But you trusted and you had faith that like you could handle anything that came your way.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, I really encourage more people to take those steps, especially when they recognize they're in a job that they don't like, and they're just like doing things that don't bring them joy. It's like, okay, that is a sign, pay attention to start doing things differently.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it's just going to get worse. What you resist persists. Right. So really beautiful. Love that story.
Have you ever been in a job or a life situation where it just wasn't bringing you joy and you realized it?
Yeah. I actually have done a lot of multi-level marketing companies.
Oh.
Yeah. So from the beginning, I was always had this like very entrepreneurial spirit. And I was like, I've always been like a social butterfly and, I can walk into a room and like make friends with everyone. And so that came really naturally for me. But multi-level marketing is basically sales, right? And so that's actually where I really learned about how to not take rejection personally.
That's interesting. It's a good lesson learned.
Right. I think I encourage everyone to like join a multi-level marketing company so you can learn to not take rejection personally. Because that's another huge reason why I exude all this confidence in like how I'm showing up in the world, because it's like, if someone's not into this frequency, like no worries. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, So, anyways, multi-level marketing companies, and one of them was working in financial services, and shouts out to Primerica and all my teachers there. I have so many coaches there that taught me so much, and I actually still have all the services myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I admire the company and what they're doing and what they're up to, and just teaching about saving, like, in the sense of like more, like I actually got certified to not teach, but sell mutual funds.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know, right?
Whoa.
And life insurance.
Wow.
So I have all these tools, right? And I'm aware of that myself. And so, but it was something that was not, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's not creative enough. You talk about creativity, and I'm like, I can't work in an office, and it's not serving me. And so that was when I really got the pull for my yoga teacher training, my first yoga teacher training class, through YogaWorks. I did it in Santa Monica, right on Main Street. And so
nice.
it was like a 1 month immersion. And so it was like a full-time job for 4 weeks.
Wow.
And we had an hour break. And every time we had a break, I'd meditate. And then I'd go jump in the ocean.
Wow.
Because it was so close.
Yeah.
And I'd never lived by the beach before, that close, you know. And I was like, I'm going to take advantage of this.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. And so that's where my yoga teacher training, or my yoga as a teacher came through is, okay, it was like, I didn't know where the money was going to come from, but I had this credit card.
Yeah.
So I put it all on the credit card, you know. And, but it's like, and you know what, this is something that the multi-level marketing companies also taught me. So after I did my yoga teacher training, I literally made flyers and I went door to door in my neighborhood and I was like, hi, I'm Liz. I will teach you yoga for 1 hour for $20.
Wow.
And I actually got some takers.
Wow. That's amazing.
I know.
That attitude, I feel like that kind of stuff can be so intimidating, but at the same time, you don't know what's going to happen. You might get some clients that last,
you do get clients
a long time. And also too, nothing is going to happen if you just stay inside.
If you stay in your comfort zone.
Yeah. Nothing
happens. You get that routine of like, okay, this is my routine. It's like, I know what to do. I know what to expect. Right. But then like, it's like, it can get boring. Yeah. Right. And so it's like, take a little baby, dip a toe in and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fun.
Wow. So multi-level marketing, very different than what you're doing now. You work as hopefully I'm going to say this right, spiritual grief counselor?
Spiritual grief guide.
Spiritual grief guide. So
yeah.
What exactly does that entail?
Yes. So being a spiritual grief guide is really based off of the yoga, my meditation. I've learned the body talk system, which is an energy healing modality, and really just my life experience of overcoming grief and making friends with my emotions. And I really just share my own experiences with people, because when people come to me, they've been where I've been. They're at where I've been. And so, it's really about, what I recognize is that people have resistance to feeling, right? And because it doesn't feel good. Yeah. It's uncomfortable, right? And then this circles back around to stepping outside of your comfort zone. Right? Because it's like, if we can get comfortable with getting uncomfortable, right? Then when like someone dies in our life, we can feel our emotions and we don't distract ourselves from the feeling of the grief or the sadness or the anger, and it's like, okay, here's my emotion. And so what I teach is like, make friends with your emotions. So let's do a fun emotion. So give me an emotion, Sheldon.
Is laughter an emotion?
Laughter?
Humor? No, maybe like
joy.
Joy. Joy is the emotion there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and do you have something that triggered this joy?
I feel like so many things.
Like, what's going right for you in your life right now?
There's a lot of good things. I think having this space.
Yeah.
Having this space is like it's a bit of a dream come true.
Nice.
And it's something that excites me.
Okay.
Brings me joy.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's make friends with joy. If joy had its own little facial expression and arms and legs, right? Which is similar. It reminds me of that movie they made. I forget what.
Oh my goodness.
You know which one?
That Pixar movie about like the emotions.
Exactly.
What is that movie called? It's
I forget.
Inside Me, right?
Oh yeah, Inside Out or something like that.
Inside Out, maybe not Inside Me.
Okay, so
Inside
similar
Out.
to that, right? Joy. Now close your eyes, and what does joy taste like? The first thing that comes to your mind.
A Jolly Rancher.
A Jolly Rancher. Okay, what does it smell like?
A flower.
A flower? What kind of flower? What flower do you picture? Smell it through your nose.
Actually, maybe it smells like strawberries.
Strawberries. Okay. And what is the texture? Is it like soft blanket? Is it like a spiky or sharp rock? Like joy. What's the texture when you touch it?
Yeah, like a long-haired rug. Like a soft,
like
long-haired
the one you
rug.
can like slide your fingers in?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay. And then when you stop to listen to joy, what is it telling you?
Be happy.
Mm-hmm. And what do you want to tell joy?
Thank you.
Gratitude.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being around.
Right. And then it's like, if you were to name joy, what's the first name that pops up in your head?
There's a weird name, but this is the first name that popped up in my head. I don't know why. Jezebel.
Ooh.
I don't know why.
Your joy sounds really sexy.
Oh my God.
You got sexy joy.
Sexy joy.
Jezebel.
Jezebel. She's a sexy lady. She's my joyful lady. She brings me joy.
Right.
Wow.
So it's like, that's easy because joy is like a fun emotion.
Yeah.
But for people who are coming to me with grief and sadness and anger and resentment and like depression and anxiety, you know, it's like, it's more challenging to tap into making friends with it.
Huh.
Right. But it's like, that's where life is meant to be enjoyed. Let's make it a game. Right? Like, yes, you're having this experience. What do you have control of? How you think about it, how you feel about it, and how you respond.
Yeah. So
Right?
do you go through all those emotions with people and do the same process?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. And
I've never thought about emotions in that type of way ever.
Right. And so now you can see it differently.
Yeah.
Do things differently. See your emotions differently.
Yeah.
And in that, so for example, my grief, I named her Greta. My grief named Greta.
Yeah.
Right. And she showed up and I didn't, it was something that I felt, but I didn't know how to handle when Michael died. Right. But over the years, I learned meditation. I learned breath work. I learned cold baths. You know, it's like, I learned yoga and just dance and movement. Oh, chanting. Can we just stop and take a lion's breath right now?
I don't know what that means, but yeah, let's do it.
Just because we've been talking a lot and so a lion's breath will kind of like just clear the air. And so and then maybe we can go a few minutes longer. So let's see if we can get comfortable in your chair.
Okay.
And sit up nice and tall.
Nice and tall. Okay. Okay.
So let's just close our eyes and take a deep breath. Inhale through your nose and then exhale and blow it out through your mouth. Like you're blowing out your birthday candles.
Okay.
And so in this place, I'm just going to do a little like guided meditation. And I want you to imagine a wave of relaxation moving from the crown of your head all the way down throughout your facial muscles, just relaxing them and relaxing the shoulders and all the way down your torso and the hips and down the legs and out through the feet. And then again, as you inhale, notice that wave of relaxation. And it's just acknowledging, just taking this a moment to be like, oh yeah, I'm a soul having a human experience. This is my earth vessel. Hello, earth vessel. I love you. Right? It's like we got lungs. Shouts out to the lungs for letting us breathe deeply. That's our life force energy, our prana. And we got the heart. Shouts out to the heart to pump all our blood. Shouts out to the nervous system for all the electricity and that moves throughout our whole body, and our skin, our protective layer, and our muscles that help us move and walk and be strong and pick things up and dance and move. And it's like our skeletal system for the bones in our body, right? It's like if the skeletal system wasn't there, we'd be like a blob on the ground, you know, in our skin suits. So it's like, thanks, bones. I love you. And then our sweet brains. Oh, sweet brain, I love you, because this is where we have, so in the body talk system, we teach this technique. It's called cortices, where you literally, like, you hold the sides of the head. You can see if you can hold the sides of your head. So I know we're wearing the headphones, but just put your hands over the headphones.
Okay.
And it's like acknowledging that we have a right and left hemisphere in our brain. And they communicate through a little bridge at the top called the corpus callosum. And this is how they talk to each other and how we have coordination in our body. And then go from the forehead to the back of the head. And the forehead is like where our prefrontal cortex is. And this is where we make decisions, right? We make confident decisions here. And then at the back of the head is like our primal brain. And it's like where we feel that need to protect ourselves. It's like safety, survival, co-creation, things like that. So we take a deep breath in and sigh it out. And then you can tap the top of the head, get both right and left hemisphere of the brain, and we say, head brain, pay attention. Pay attention to this acknowledgement and this balance. And that everything in my body is communicating with itself. And then we tap the sternum of the chest, and this is heart brain. Remember this by heart. Wisdom of the heart. I am balanced. I am supported. On an emotional level, I can handle this. And then tap your gut brain, and your gut brain is our ability to digest the experiences that we are having, and not only just our food, but also our thoughts and our emotions. And we absorb the wisdom, and then we let go. We poop out the rest. Right? And it's like, I feel so much better.
Wow. Yeah, I feel very relaxed. That was nice.
Right? And so here's the lion's breath, just to get some, this is what I like to do in play circles. So play circles are an invitation to liberate your inner child and have a safe space to step outside your comfort zone. So it's about, anywhere between 60 to 90 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I do them, prefer to do them in person, but I have done them virtually. And it's like, hey, bring a journal and a pen, because we're going to do some self-reflective writing. And we're going to make some silly sounds. And we're going to wiggle our bodies and get silly. Yeah. And then I always end with like a sound bath, shavasana with the chimes.
Oh, those things are so cool. Can I use one?
Yeah.
I love these.
The koshi chimes. Ooh, so pretty.
Oh my God. Really cool.
Yeah.
I feel like these should be a regular feature of the podcast studio.
Totally.
They just sound so beautiful.
They're so peaceful, huh?
Yeah.
So one of the silly sounds I like to teach is a lion's breath. So maybe don't get so close to the mic.
You have to back up.
But you stick out your tongue, and then you take a deep breath, and you make the sound. Come on, do it with me.
All right. Deep breath.
And then can you go like this? And what about with your tongue?
Oh, I can't roll my tongue. I can't roll my R's.
Yeah, you got it.
These are like vocal warm-ups.
Totally.
These are great.
And what it's doing is stimulating our vagus nerve, which activates the parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest and heal mode. So
the vagus nerve?
The vagus nerve in the body, yeah. So that's
Vegas.
Yeah, the vagus
party
nerve. Shouts out. And so, but what I really like about chanting Om or making these sounds is actually we're getting out of our comfort zone. It's a simple way to be like, feel heard.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're doing it by yourself, it's like, you know what I mean? Because, and it's like, okay, I'm going to be vulnerable and make this weird random sound that I've never made before, you know? And so when I have play circles, the invitation is like, the disclaimer is like, we're going to get silly.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission to be silly. And I say, like, invite your inner child. So what were you called as a child?
Like a nickname?
Yeah, a nickname, or like for me, it was Little Lizzie.
Little Lizzie. My dad would always call me Sheller.
Sheller, I like that.
Sheller. He still calls me Sheller sometimes.
Nice, I like that. So it's like we're living with them. Live with your inner child. Like, she's hanging out all the time. Actually, she's more the one who sees life with awe and wonder. And I'm in my adult body making the confident decisions.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But she's the one who's like excited about the next adventure and the creativity in my journal and in my writing.
Yeah.
You know, and as I'm writing this book, it's like they say like, oh, you're in the flow. Right. And it's like, I'm just a channel.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, these are my memories. These are my experiences. But I've never written in this way before. And, you know, it was always like I was resistant to writing it because people said, like, Liz, you have so many fun tools and wisdom and you should write a book. And I was like so resistant to it because I was like, I don't know how to write a book. Like, I don't know what it looks like. It's not going to be good enough, you know, and all these things. But then thanks to Skooliepalooza, something triggered there.
That's when you started writing the book?
Not there, but I wrote some bullet points there while I was there. And one fun thing about that was Skooliepalooza actually helped me realize I've been grieving the last 4 months when I first moved into the bus. I'd been grieving because I was like grieving the loss of how I was supposed to live my life. Beliefs, you know, of like what other people told me how I was supposed to live or what I was supposed to be doing, you know, and it was like I let that go. And that was a loss because all of my life, you know, oh, you live in a house and you have a job and, you know, and so to kind of back up of like how my nomadic journey started was when I went to go visit a friend in Washington. Shouts out Kevin Chen. And he's a business coach and he taught me so much. He's a great teacher. And but I went to go visit him in Washington and I was just in my car, like car camping. Yeah. And I stopped on my way back down to California. I have another friend, Rose. She lives in Florence, Oregon. And nice. Have you been there?
I know of it. I don't think I've been there. It's on the coast, right?
Yes. Yeah. Central Oregon coast where the forest meets the ocean. Beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. And so I went there to visit her and I was like, I live in Oregon now. I was like, I call it a remembery. But it was like a memory of the future. Whoa. And I had this memory
like a premonition.
Yeah. And I'm living in a school bus with my dog Logan in this forest. And it was so strong. It hit me so strong. And I was like, whoa, you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
It's just like right there. And you're like, okay.
Wow.
If I don't pursue this, then I am so out of alignment.
Yeah.
And so I got back to California, and I was like, I got back to California July 4th of last year, 2022. And I was like, let me explore this school bus thing.
Yeah.
And I found the Bonafide bus on Facebook Marketplace, talked to them, went to see it like 2 weeks later. And then, and then it was like 2 weeks after that, I bought the bus.
Wow.
It was quick. It was like, everything just lined up perfectly. And the money showing up was the easy part. The hard part was getting rid of all my stuff. That was another thing I was grieving. Like all these things that I'd been carrying my whole life, every place you move, you're like, okay, let me pack it up. Let me get all my storage boxes and pack it all up. And it was actually quite disturbing for me to go through all my belongings when I was like trying to move into the bus.
Yeah.
I had so many things, and I was like, it's like you find things that are like packed in corners or the backs of drawers that you never touch.
I know the feeling.
And it just takes up space, and you're like, why am I holding? You put it back there, you're like, I might use this one day. Yeah. But then you keep putting stuff back there and you never use it. And it's just like literally takes up space in your whole, like if the external is a reflection of our internal state, then it's like all those things that are crammed in the backs of drawers or shoved into the back of closets, they're going to take up that mental space, that emotional space, and just like weigh on your shoulders. Yeah. And so that's why I was grieving. And I was like, I'm supposed to be happy right now. Like I just moved into the bus, but I was like unmotivated, and I felt lazy, and I was uninspired, and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I just know I really learned that everything is temporary living in the bus, and I was like, okay, everything's temporary. That's true even when we live in a house. Yeah. But we don't see it. It's not right in our face when we live in a house. It's more like in a house, it's like gradual, like it's kind of like on the back burner. But like in a school bus, you're like, all right, gotta find a new place to park.
Yep. Especially in LA. Can we take a quick pause?
Yeah.
I just got to pee real fast.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You have been in the van or the bus for less than a year. What are some of your favorite things about living in a bus? And then what are some of the challenges of living in a bus?
So some of my favorite things are that I get to travel, and everywhere that I go. So I'm actually creating a sticker that says, I plant gratitude seeds wherever I grow.
Nice. Because
I'm in a bus going places.
Yeah.
And everywhere I go, I'm growing. Right? So I love the pun. Yeah. Also, I live in gratitude, the meditation bus.
There's many layers to this pun.
So just throw them all in there.
Yeah.
So everywhere I go, I make friends. I call nomadic homies my nomies.
The nomies. Wow.
Right? Is that fun?
I like that.
Nomadic homies.
To be distinguished from the normies. The nomies and the normies.
What's the normies?
Normies? Normies, I feel like it's kind of like a pejorative of like normal. It means normal people. Oh. But it's kind of like a negative.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know. It's like, it sounds negative. Normies.
Nomies. So.
Nomies is nice.
And so I'm constant, everywhere I go now, it's like I have friends. San Diego, Arizona, it's like go up to Washington, Oregon, right? Yeah. Colorado, Montana. It's like so many places. I met so many people, and it's such a treat. So I believe that the greatest gift that people give me is their presence. So aside from that, it feels like I'm living on a porch. So,
On a porch?
Yeah, because I have a handicap bus, so the back two doors open, and it feels like I'm on a porch, and it's just so lovely. I love being able to pull up to just the most amazing, beautiful spots, and like you step outside and you're like, this is my home for the day, you know?
Yeah.
And like in Big Bear, I'll park on Summit Boulevard, which is right next to the ski slopes.
Wow.
And I'm like, I live on the mountain, like,
yeah, that's awesome.
Because you meet people on the chairlift, and they're like, where are you from, or where do you live? I'm like, I live here. Home is where I park it.
Yeah, that's right.
So some of the challenges I guess would say is, typical parking if I'm in the city.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I ran out of water once. I ran out of electricity once. I was parked in the shade too long.
Yeah.
And my solar was like, excuse me.
Give me some sun.
Yeah, I need some sunshine.
Yeah.
I did run out of water once, but, that was an easy fix.
Yeah. Where do you typically get your water?
So I usually like to fill up at my parents' house. They have a well.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, it's like got all mineralized water, and I'll drink that. Nice. And I have a 50-gallon water tank under my queen bed.
That's amazing. That's a lot of water.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
It does. Actually, I weighed my bus when it was full of gas, which is another 50-gallon tank. Whew. And full of water. And guess how much it was? How much do you think it weighed?
The whole bus?
The whole bus with all my stuff in it.
2 tons? 3 tons?
Tell me, what is that in pounds?
Oh, man, I don't know.
Well, it was
exactly
14,000 pounds.
14,000 pounds? Okay, I'm off. It was more than 2-3 tons. Yeah. Wow. 14,000 pounds.
Yep. So I got my propane burner, and I have a shower in there, but I usually just take outdoor showers.
Nice.
And actually, that's a challenge because I don't have a hot water heater. So I take cold showers, which can be pretty challenging sometimes.
On the regular?
Yeah. Or I'll stay at friends. I'll stop by a friend's house and take a shower there.
But you don't do like the gym membership thing?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and and then one of my favorite things is my composting toilet. It's like, I love to poop.
It's a good thing. It's a natural thing.
Right? It's like,
it's an important thing.
Right? I'm like, oh my gosh, my digestion is really good. Like I'm pooping every day. Like these are conversations I have with myself.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me, like that peat moss has does a really great job. And, like you can't smell anything in the bus, and it does have a little filter to go outside, but it's like really amazing. I'm like, this is magic.
Yeah. You have the nature's head, right?
I have the nature's head, yeah.
The nature's head.
I have an ice coat fridge, a little like chest fridge, but and these are all things that I was like, okay. Like one of the things I said when I was moving out of my house was, if it doesn't fit in the bus, I don't need it. And maybe it's I don't need it right now.
Yeah.
But and later on down the road, then maybe I might need it, and then I'll get it then.
Yeah.
But that was pretty challenging to let go of all my stuff.
Yeah.
So I just brought the most important stuff. But I realized that I'm still not using a lot of the stuff that I kept. So anyways, what about you? What have been your favorites and your challenges?
I mean, one of my favorite things is just being able to sleep anywhere. It makes it so easy to travel. I don't have to think about a hotel or Airbnb or anything, or even like if I have friends in a city, it's like I can just go somewhere, and I got my little cabin on wheels.
Nice.
So, and then I'm mostly based in LA, and so when I do a lot of different jobs in LA, it's nice to be able to at night go to wherever I need to be for the next day.
Nice.
Kind of skip that commute and just wake up
where
I need to be.
Well done.
And I love the feeling in my van because it looks like a little cabin.
Home. It's home.
Sometimes you forget that what your surroundings are, and you're like, it takes you to a different world.
Yeah.
Briefly. So I love that. I also just love like looking at my van. Like, so I'll look at my van and be like, damn, you look good.
I see that too. I'm like, I got a cute bus.
Yeah. You're definitely so connected to whatever vehicle you're like living in. It's like, man, I'm so connected to this thing because I live in it. I rely on it. I use it to get around. It has its own identity. You said, what did you say? You're married to your spiritual marriage to your bus, or your bus to your partner, something like that.
Oh yeah, I said Samuel is my spiritual husband.
But you said something about your bus too.
Oh, about my bus.
Being in a relationship with your bus.
Exactly.
And I think that it is like that. It is kind of like being in a relationship.
I talk to my engine, like especially when we're going uphill.
Please start.
I'm like, gratitude, you got this.
Yeah.
Right.
That's funny.
It's like, because the bus is also a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
It's its own entity.
Yeah.
And so is Earl, and your van. And they are a presence.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. They evoke a very particular emotion too.
Yeah. Especially with gratitude. Like, one thing that I love about having named my bus Gratitude, and that was a download in meditation.
Yeah.
Because I knew I wanted to name my bus, but I didn't. It wasn't, it's gratitude, but in meditation, I was like, gratitude. It came to me, and I was like, I live in gratitude. And I was like, it's true. I do live in gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
But when people see the bus and even the word gratitude, they're like, they tap into that frequency of gratitude. And so that's something that I really love about how I'm just like showing up in the world.
Yeah, that's cool. So I know that you have a partner, but you also travel solo a lot, right?
Yeah.
So traveling solo, being in the bus solo as a woman, what is that experience like? Is it ever intimidating? I know that there's a lot of people who say like, I would love to live in a bus or a van, or I've thought about it, but I don't know if it's safe. Yeah.
So intimidating, no. Vulnerable, yes. Right? But it's like I practice living vulnerably all the time. So it's not unfamiliar to me. It's something that I've been practicing. So vulnerability, because I don't know who I'm going to run into. And yes, there's, the risk of, shady people or anything like that. But that's even in a house, and like when I'm inside the bus and I lock it up, I feel like I'm in a tank.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one thing about the bus. Yeah.
And I do feel very safe in there. And it's like if sometimes I'll be in a place and if I'm feeling, this is where I'm really tapped into my intuition. And if my intuition's telling me that this is an unsafe place, then, I'll move. Yeah. But typically as I'm like driving, I'll be like, okay, well, whenever it feels like it's good time to pull over, I'm going to just listen to that. Yeah. Like if I'm on a long road trip trying to get from one place to another, then, I'll listen to that. But really cultivating my intuition has been very helpful in navigating this experience of living nomadically. Yeah. Because, as a solo female, it's something that, but again, also my confidence, like, I'm like, I don't mind confrontation. Like if I need to speak my truth or I have a need, then I'm going to share that and speak it out. Like sometimes we're in communities in, like in Joshua Tree or in, school at Skooliepalooza. And I was like, I need to just go take some space by myself. Right. And then it's like, it's fine. Like, I don't need to ask anyone permission. Yeah. And I'll go do that. So one of the things I really love about being solo is that I get to be extra selfish. Right. And so, I don't have to worry about anyone else. And that feels really good because I really get to just focus on me and what's true for me. And, I'm like, what feels charming today? Let me go do that.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my favorite things about it.
Nice. So far, no like bad experiences or scary experiences or...
No.
That's good. That's awesome.
Aside from rain leaks, no.
Rain leaks. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know.
How many rain leaks?
3. I know.
Dang.
But I mean, I've fixed them. I've patched them up so that it's kind of like I didn't convert the bus. So it's like now I'm kind of like unraveling it to figure out how to fix it, to fix the leaks.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I haven't had any bad experiences with people.
Yeah, that's
right?
awesome.
And I think that also is like how I'm going into it, how I'm showing up. Because we exude like, it's like I'm divinely taken care of and I can handle anything that comes my way. That's just always, that's my default. And in that default, I just, I'm not scared. I'm not paying attention. I'm not focused on what to fear. I'm focused on like, what's exciting? What's the adventure going to be?
Yeah.
How am I going to get into the unknown? How is that going to unfold? I'm not worried about like, oh my God, like I'm going to show up to this place and there might be scary people. It's like, I'm not focused on that. And so I think that plays a big role too. What are you focused on?
Yeah. I think that the way that we frame situations and frame things is really powerful. Because one way to look at the world is all the bad things and all the scary things. And that can be crippling and paralyzing.
Yeah.
And the world is a lot of things all at once. Good, bad, beautiful, ugly. It's just like it's everything.
Infinite potential of possibilities.
Yeah. So I actually really resonate with a lot of the things that you said about just framing and perspective. Like, if you have an attitude of, why not give it a shot? There's nothing I can't do. What's the, just go for it.
Totally.
I think that that's when things actually happen. When you step out, you allow yourself to be uncomfortable. And then the opposite is when you are living in fear and afraid and thinking that's too dangerous or that I can't. When you tell yourself, I can't do that, you're just putting yourself in the box that's just hidden away in a dark corner.
Totally.
And
limiting yourself.
But you ultimately, it's like you said, you have the control of what perspective you're going to take.
What you're focused on.
So, yeah.
Nice.
It's powerful. I'm really curious why you brought this little head scratcher thing. I don't know what those are called, but those things are incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
You can't really do it
with the headphones on. But the head scratcher is another tool that I use. So I use these in, I call them earth vessel tune-ups.
Okay.
And so basically, it's a head scratcher. It stimulates your hair follicles. I'll just leave it right there for now. It kind of pops off. But earth vessel tune-ups are, I say, it's like a 5-minute meditation where I bring someone into the bus, or if I'm not at the bus, it's like even with you. It's kind of like what we did where we did the cortices technique. We focused on our breath. We'll do the chimes. I have a gong in the bus, and I have some crystal bowls also.
Yeah.
A tuning fork. Have you ever used a tuning fork?
You used it on us. Remember? Okay. You put it on our foreheads.
Yep. So the tuning fork
nice.
is a frequency, and it basically harmonizes you on a cellular level. And so it's just it's a tuning fork. It's a tune-up, an earth vessel tune-up, right? Rarely do people actually take the time to be like, oh yeah, I'm a human and acknowledge that part of themselves with their breath and like get still with that part of themselves. Because when you can do that, you're switching on your parasympathetic, that rest, digest, and heal mode. And the more often we can do that throughout the day, then we are going to feel more balanced. right? Because so much of the time in our society, we're like going. And it's like, we got to go here and there and in fast mode and like get all the things done and your to-do list, you know? Yeah. And then it's like, you is on your to-do list self-care? You know, so that's an earth vessel tune-up. And then I also offer intuitive touch self-healing. It's like energy healing.
Okay.
And basically this is where, this is more like my coaching, like my life coaching part of it. But basically I hold up a metaphorical mirror for my client to recognize where they're holding resistance in their body, mind, or spirit.
What does a metaphorical mirror mean?
A metaphorical mirror.
Or what does it look like?
So like for you and me right now, you are a reflection of me. I'm a reflection of you. You know, when I meet new people, I'm like, what does this person have to teach me? You know, and it's like talking about the oneness again and recognizing that we are all reflections of each other, right? The collective consciousness of humans, right? And so the metaphorical mirror is like, I'm not holding up a real actual mirror for you to look at yourself physically. The metaphorical mirror is like for you to look at yourself internally. Like, how do you talk to yourself? Is it critical or compassionate? How do you feel? Are you giving yourself permission to feel your emotions, or do you push them down and distract yourself with social media or sex or drugs or alcohol, you know, things like that? Or are you feeling your emotions? And so that may be what they're doing. And so when I come to them, you know, it's like, here's a mirror for you to look inside. And it's like resistance happens when we try and have control. And so it's like some areas we don't have control of.
Yeah.
And so in that place, some people don't realize they have choice. If you have choice and you can let go of control, that's a choice, right? Yeah, it is vulnerable and scary sometimes. But if you've been practicing it, baby steps, when you're not stressed or in a conflict, it's more easily accessible. So holding up a metaphorical mirror for them to recognize where they're holding resistance within themselves, where they're feeling stuck in life, you know, and then when the resistance is on the table, and me as an observer and you as the observer are looking at it, you can choose to be like, do I want to keep holding on to this resistance, or do I want to let it go? And so in letting go, you liberate yourself. You find freedom. Does that make sense?
I think so.
I'm like, do you have some, what's coming up for you? Like, is there something where you're feeling like you recognize you have resistance around? Like, where are you feeling conflict or, you know, things like that? Those are the questions that I'll ask someone.
Yeah. I'm curious where you learned all these techniques and all these things.
Yeah. So, well, the body talk system taught me a lot about like how to listen to my intuition. So it's a whole system of modules and teachers that really tell you, and really they're just a guide as well. But the guide is to tap into my own intuition, to listening to what's true for me without the external influence, right? And yeah, it's like yoga, the yoga teacher trainings I've done. I've studied, I've done meditation retreats, and it's kind of an accumulation. I did the Landmark Forum.
What is that?
The Landmark Forum is, this is one of the first ones I did. And it's like a self-development seminar, but really like looking at yourself and seeing yourself differently. I also did, through University of Santa Monica, it's called Loyalty to Your Soul.
Interesting.
So it's like an accumulation of like all the practices that I've done for my own self-development and that I've been practicing. And then I kind of filtered it out with my flair, right? And so it's like play circles, because I'm the play priestess, right? You can find me on Instagram Self-Heal with Liz. I'm the play priestess. And I'm all about play. Life is meant to be enjoyed. Let's play a game.
Yeah.
Stop taking life so seriously. Find lightness, find softness in your body, right? Look for adventure. What are you focused on, you know? Don't focus on the stress. Don't focus on the conflict. That's always going to show up because we are humans. But like, we don't have to focus on that. Let's focus on like what we're excited about in life. Let's focus on what we're grateful for in life. And so that's my message. And yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that in a weird way, because I can sense this in myself to a certain extent of a resistance towards like playfulness and in exchange for like being serious. I think that in society, society is very serious. It's like everything's so serious, you know, and for like I almost feel like there's this dichotomy between like being a child and being an adult, and this sense of like not being playful and childlike because you're an adult or something like that, you know, and almost looking at being playful or being silly as like too simple of an answer. And yet I feel like if there was just more playfulness, more silliness, just like less of taking things so seriously, I could probably do the world a lot of good.
We'd be happier.
I think that there is too much. I don't know why people are. Why so serious?
Why are we so serious?
You know, like I think about there's some crazy things happening in the world right now. There's always been crazy things happening in the world. One of the most salient things is the war in Ukraine. And, you know, I think about that situation and how devastating it is, like how intense it is, how terrible it is. And I wonder, you know, why do we have to take that so serious, but why? It almost sounds ridiculous to say. I'm just going to say it. What would happen if everybody involved in that part of the world just was able to take a break from that for a second and make some silly sounds?
Yes.
But it sounds absurd. That sounds absurd to say that, I think, because in our minds it's like, well, that's ridiculous. That's impossible. And there's so much tragedy and darkness. And it's true. But at the same time, healing and like it's I don't know, it's weird because I can feel it in myself, this kind of like tension between when you just make a silly sound and it just makes you laugh because you're like, wow, that's absurd and ridiculous. It pulls you out of the moment for a second. You're like,
it actually gets you present.
Yeah, it
and
really
out
does.
of your the story of what you're creating. Yeah, and wars are just about control.
Yeah.
There goes again, going back to people trying to get control of things they don't have.
Yeah.
Right? And so they fight against it. They resist it. And that causes chaos and conflict. And so it's like, how do we alleviate that? And for me, it's like, what do I have control of? I have control of teaching these tools to people. And I tend to say I want to teach them to parents or people who want to be parents, because then they can start practicing the tools and take self-responsibility for their own happiness and their own nervous system and their own stress. And then they can teach their kids that.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, now we are creating the next generation of humans to take self-responsibility, to be happy, to self-regulate, to be okay stepping out of their comfort zone, you know, and recognizing where they don't have control. So it's like, I feel like that's my purpose.
Yeah.
Because I can't, yes, there's a war in Ukraine, but it's like, well, what do I have control of in that instance? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's too far away. It's too... Yeah. So
one thing I also thought about was what you talked about in terms of practicing these tools when you're not stressed and not in a bad place so that you're ready for it when it comes. I think that's a really important, powerful message because it's hard to do those things when shit hits the fan. When shit hits the fan, it's like, you know,
shit's going everywhere.
It's like, oh my goodness, this crazy times. It's hard to maybe be able to implement things that you wish you could implement when it's already going crazy. But if you've taken the time in advance to prepare, be like, you know, I'm good right now. Like, I'm great. So I'm going to take this time to practice and develop those techniques to be present and to take care of myself and my body and think about my place in the world. Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be
zooming out. Zooming out and seeing the bigger picture and seeing the infinite potentials of possibilities. Right? And then you're like, out of all the possibilities, what's my preference?
Yeah.
How would I like things to go? Let me go explore that path. And if for some reason that path's not working out, I zoom back out again and then I look again and I'm like, out of all these possibilities, you know, and really it comes down to the solution is recognizing when you have choice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you've mentioned choice a lot. Choice seems to be pretty central to the message, but realizing that you have choice.
Totally.
Which I think is empowering, especially for people who feel like they are powerless or trapped.
Exactly.
And I think it's easy to feel that way. I've felt powerless before. I think that
have too. Yeah.
We live in a society that you can feel trapped economically. I have to have this job because I have to pay my rent because I have all these obligations, and can be incredibly stressful and demoralizing and disempowering, disenfranchising. But the beautiful thing is you don't have to be stuck in that. Right. Exactly. And there's definitely different paths and different levels to it but I think what you've kind of touched on is I think it begins with realizing the choice you have of how you actually think, how you perceive, how you look at your situation, how you describe yourself. Yeah. I think that's probably where it starts. Yeah. And what you realize you're capable of.
Totally. Yeah. It's like beautiful. Yeah. Well said.
Well, I feel like I owe that to you. I feel like this conversation.
I know, but now it's your wisdom. Yeah. It's your wisdom now because now you can be like, next time you're triggered, be like, what do I have control of? You know, and catch yourself. You catch yourself. Yeah. Right? Because sometimes like our old habitual ways will come up and we react and we say something we might regret later. Right? But then it's like, then we look back on that and we're like, oh, I said something that I regret. But you caught yourself that time, not before, but you caught it after. So then the next time you're like, you catch it before you say something you might regret. Yeah. Or do.
Yeah. Just trying to get better every time. So let's get some excerpts.
Excerpts. Okay.
Excerpts from the book. Do you have a potential date in mind for when you want to put something out with this book?
Well,
is it going to be this year?
Oh, yeah, I definitely want it this year. Yeah, for sure. And, okay, so there's 42 pages. So nice. Pick a page 1 through 42.
Oh, 37.
Ooh.
That's what came to mind.
Wow, I love that. Okay, 37. It's like...
What are we going to get?
Oh, fun. I love this.
Uh-oh.
Well, I love this because I was like, I wanted to talk about my Patreon, and then you like go to that page.
Oh, wow. Very synchronistic.
Okay, so I say, what is my exclusive Patreon community, you ask? You like that?
I do. I do ask. I do wonder.
This community offers a special platform for me to express, share, and create unique offerings in a more vulnerable way. It benefits my members, also known as patronauts. They're patronauts because they're explorers.
Yeah.
Into the unknown.
I love
right?
that.
Because we're doing things differently.
I love how many nicknames you have for all these things. It's amazing.
That's the game, right?
Yeah. Make it fun.
Make it fun. Because they can access exclusive content, tutorials, and offers only found on Patreon. I offer what I call weird meditations that shift the perspective out of the ordinary about being the observer, death, and seeing the human experience differently. I also share video blogs of my deep inner thoughts and share how I handle conflict with compassion and ease. So to find me on Patreon, it's patreon.com/selfhealwithliz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have many patrons? Many patronauts?
I got 7 patronauts. Woo!
Hell yeah.
Shouts out. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm like, oh, it's so sweet because I'm just sharing authentically me and like people resonate with it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it feels so good. This is another example of where I'm divinely taken care of.
Yeah.
I'm showing up and I'm like offering this space to get out of your comfort zone and look at the world differently. And people are into it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people in this world. You never know who you might impact or who might be grateful for what you're putting out.
Yeah.
Just by putting it out.
Exactly. Oh, I want to share a little excerpt about Skooliepalooza.
Yeah. Shout out to Skooliepalooza.
Oh my god.
They've gotten a lot of shout outs from this podcast.
I love Skooliepalooza.
And
That
probably
was
many more.
life changing.
Skooliepalooza was awesome. One of the first things I was told when I got there was welcome home.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is really sweet.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to share CE5 contact ceremonies. Have you heard of them?
CE5?
CE5, yeah. It stands for Close Encounters of the Fifth Dimension.
Whoa.
Fifth kind.
Whoa. I have not heard of these.
Okay.
Tell me about this.
Being in the Starship here, Kairos, right?
That's right. Starship Kairos.
Starship Kairos it just goes right into it.
It's perfect.
This is a ceremony. This ceremony is an intimate gathering of open-hearted humans that may or may not have had interactions with extraterrestrial beings. In this community, we are all believers that there is a force beyond our understanding. As we experience our human lives, we keep our hearts and minds open to receive messages, wisdom, downloads, and physical contact with this divine force most people aren't willing to comprehend.
Whoa.
So, yeah, it's like there's communities who it's usually on new moons, so the sky is very dark.
Mm-hmm.
But we go out into nature and we meditate and we just open up our hearts. And my friend Latal, she usually plays the crystal sound bowls. And it's just like such a beautiful space and really recognizing that like, okay, we are human earth vessels, but there's also so much more we don't know. Mm-hmm. And I believe in aliens, so I love aliens.
I hope there's aliens.
Why not, right?
Yeah. I mean, this universe is so big. It is so big. How can we be the only ones out there?
Yeah. Okay, this is talking about living in the fifth dimension.
Okay.
It's following what feels charming in every moment as I listen to my strong intuitive abilities. It's connecting with my God self and other divine beings. It's recognizing that my life is meant to be enjoyed and I deserve to experience pleasure, joy, and wealth. It's being okay with obstacles and challenges because I know the universe never gives me more than I can handle. Instead of judging myself, I have compassion and acknowledge where I have room for improvement. At the same time, knowing I'm doing my best. I honor my earth vessel body, Mother Nature, other humans, animals, and the smallest atomic particles because I know that they are also me. I see everything as a reflection of my God self. I live a liberated life speaking my authentic truth, knowing that I have an important message for those that are ready to hear it. Living in this place, time is irrelevant because I no longer fear death. I have all the time in the world to play, whether it's in this human body or with the one after.
Whoa. You've mentioned you have an important message. Do you feel like you've shared that already?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You mean
I wasn't
on
sure.
this
I wasn't sure if
podcast?
there was like an additional important message because I feel like we've talked about some pretty important things.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. This is what I love about, it's coming up, day 1. I talk about the different days of Skooliepalooza. Okay.
You were there for the whole time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So when I first arrived at Skooliepalooza, it was like windy and it was like kind of unpleasant, and I was like kind of doubting myself, like, was I supposed to come, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so in this paragraph, I talk about how I was like, I shifted my perspective of what I was focusing on and chose to set intentions to make the most of this experience, to keep trusting in my confident decisions to come here, to find compassion connecting with others and not needing anything to be a certain way in order for me to be happy. As I tucked Logan into bed, I gave myself permission to adventure off, following the strange sounds of deep bass and music playing on the quotes, the party all night side of the desert.
Yeah. It was a party all night side.
There was literally a sign that said quiet family side.
Yeah, I think I saw
and then the party all night side.
Yeah. I slept on the party all night side.
Okay, good. The only way I can describe what I discovered was open-hearted humans dancing their tushies off. At was a bus, a colorfully lit shuttle bus, shouts out to Brian, sparkled in the dark night as the woman sang on the roof while the humans below boogied and laughed in a brilliance of bliss.
I love that.
Yeah, it was so magical. I was like, where am I? I'm in another dimension.
Yeah. For people who don't know what Skooliepalooza is, it is just such an incredible community. For one, because it's just free and it's open to anybody. Mm-hmm. And it's very spontaneous and it's purely community driven. Mm-hmm. And the people who come are the people who make it what it is.
Exactly.
And that's just, I don't know, it's a beautiful thing in contrast to everything else going on.
Yeah.
In the world and our lives.
Exactly. I call it like, so I feel like our nomadic community are people who are taking self-responsibility for their own happiness. Right? And it's like, that's why we're creatives. People are building out their own, people who've never done carpentry, electrical, or plumbing are like, I'm going to do this. Yeah. Right? They're motivated. They're determined. They're resilient. And it's like when something doesn't work, they find a way to make it work. Yep. Right? And so when at Skooliepalooza, everyone was just showing up and they're like, hey, this is me with my big open heart. And they're like, this is my passion. Let me share it with you. Mm-hmm. You know, and the sound circus was actually a collaboration of different nomads, like the Wanderbox and Was a Bus and Concussion Cabin and a couple others that like got all the speakers and they got all the lights and they made the experience for us. Yeah. You know, and it was like it wasn't charged. Yeah. Just for the sake of making it enjoyable. Because they love it. Yeah. That's their passion and they want to. And so it's like, I was doing play circles, you know, it's like, that's my passion. And we did breath work. There was yoga, there was vendors, you know, it was like all sorts of things. Yeah. So fun. So if you've never been, you're welcome. This is a formal invitation to come. I love it. It's in January, between January 20th and 30th every year. And it's free. It's like you can come in your car, you can come in your RV, you can come in your van or a tent. I know someone who came on their motorcycle and slept in a tent or slept in a sleeping bag. I love that. People share food. It's like, you know, so beautiful. Do you have any gatherings you're headed to at all the rest of the year? Yeah, I'm definitely planning to go to Descend on Bend. Hell yeah. That's in August? It's September 1st through 4th. Okay. I feel like I'm probably going to be there. Yeah. I feel like I have to be there. I got to do it. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And other than that, I think there's just like more intimate gatherings that, I will create or co-create with others.
Wow.
I'm co-creating something on April 19th.
No way.
In LA, although this might not come out before then, right?
Let me think here. Yeah, we're a few weeks. Yeah. We're a lot of weeks out.
Okay, so no worries. But it's like these are things where it's like someone else is bringing a DJ, someone else is a DJ, someone else is teaching yoga. I'm doing a play circle.
Where in LA? Where's it going to be?
In Koreatown.
What?
Yeah, they call it Experience Magic. You can get more info on the Instagram is spreadmagic.bekind.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's sweet. But it's not like a van life thing. It's just like a...
Yeah, it's just for anyone.
Cool. That's cool. Have you done that stuff before, events?
Yeah. I've done a lot of collaborating with others and, whether it was me doing a sound bath or teaching the yoga. But I love that because it's not just me doing everything.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think you'll be in the bus for a long time?
I do. I was like, when I first started this, I was like, I'll give myself a year, but it's already been like 7-8 months.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I'm like not going anywhere except staying on the road.
Yeah.
I definitely have no reason to move back into a house and pay rent. Like, I own a house. I'm a homeowner now.
Yeah, that's right. Man, that's awesome. Any places you really want to go to that you haven't been yet?
I'm really excited to spend the summer in the Pacific Northwest.
Nice.
Right. To go back up to Oregon and Washington. And I mean, there's so many alpine lakes and it's just so green. There's colors of green in Oregon that I've never seen before.
That is very true.
Right. And
it is very brown in LA.
Yeah.
Like
in California except for when it's rainy season, but then it gets very brown. But yeah. Everything's so alive and there's so much vitality in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. And so I'm just like, I'm going to spend the whole summer up there.
That's awesome.
I'm not planning to come back until after September, after Descend on Bend.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so I'm not a big fan of the rainy season up there, but if it rains, I can handle it.
Would you ever do Baja?
I would, but I have a 15-year-old Labrador. And so I don't know. I just don't want to have to worry about any kind of vaccinations with him on the border to get him in or out,
That's fair.
So I trust that Baja is maybe on my path after Logan transitions. Yeah. But he's in great shape. He is the best bus
15.
dog.
I didn't realize that because I met Logan at the... I didn't realize he was 15.
He's 15, and he's doing great.
It's a wise old dog.
He's taught me a lot of patience.
I'm sure. I love dogs. I want a dog so bad.
Well, it'd be hard to have one in LA if you're living in LA.
Yeah. No.
So.
We'll see. Would you ever do a type of alternative living that wasn't a bus?
Yeah, I follow a lot of homesteads on Instagram.
Cool.
And I'm like super into that. And it's like eventually, what's interesting is before bus life, I was like, I'm supposed to be a mom. Like I have already met my twins, like in meditations, boy and girl twins. Yep. And it's like women have all the eggs that they are going to have throughout their life.
Yeah.
So it's like technically the potential of having children is already in my womb.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so, I have met them in meditations and like in dreams. But it's like I actually don't need that to happen in this lifetime in order for me to be happy. So it's like if that happens, awesome, great. I'm super into it and I will thrive and do the best at being the mother that I know I can be. But if that doesn't happen, I'm also going to be happy. And so, but if it does happen, I imagine like living on some homestead or a community of people who like, all care. We all have the same vision of like taking care of the earth, honoring our bodies and and the earth and gardening and, offering like trays and doing things like that, and just really cultivating like what our talents are and how can we support ourselves as a community in that way.
Yeah.
So
It's beautiful. I have a very similar vision for the future. I want to have 100 acres with some friends, some little tiny home village, some small scale agriculture.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll live there.
I'm looking for people.
Maybe we make it happen.
100%. Just got to find my 100 acres. So.
Oh, it's there.
It's there. There's actually a lot of places in America.
It already exists.
Where you can get a lot of land for cheap.
This would be a great way to maybe start winding down the podcast, but talking about Bhavinas. Bhavinas. So this is something that I learned in a yoga teacher training I did a training in Burbank with Yoga Jaya was the studio. And my teacher taught me Bhavinas, which it's like a dream board, but in written form.
Okay.
So for you talk about these, you're like, I got to find my 100 acres.
Yeah.
Right? But if you start writing down and maybe do it in a journal where you're like, you talk about it in past tense. I got these 100 acres. It's so green. I have other people living on this community with me. And it's like, there's the creek running through it. And I like, when I dip my feet in it, it's like cold and chilly on my feet, And so you start talking about it as if it's already happened, right? And then you feel it. You're like, I feel the cold water on my feet when I'm in this creek,
Yeah.
I hear people laughing, on this 100 acres that I'm living on.
Yeah.
I feel the sunshine on my face. I smell like the tomato plant in my garden. Right? And that's like, ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah. The power of visualization.
Yeah.
That was how this space came about.
Beautiful. Love it.
I could see it in my mind.
Yeah.
Exactly as it is, pretty much.
Love it.
Yeah,
Nice.
there's something really powerful about visualization. Do you have anything that you are visualizing in your future that is to come?
When I visualize my future, I see a blank canvas. And it's like, I'm really in a place where I feel so at peace that it doesn't actually matter to me right now how life unfolds. It's more like I guess what I'm visualizing is being able to connect with more people and teach them these tools. Right? And so it's like, and I already am, right? Like with this podcast.
Yeah.
So shouts out to you, Calvin.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to do this. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I feel
100%.
like I think that there's a lot of really cool things to take away from this conversation, and the beauty of it is we've already had it, and people can return to it and use it in whatever way is helpful for them. You know, it's there. It's recorded.
It's in the archives.
It's in the archives. It's headed to Starship Kairos. It's headed to Alpha Centauri.
Alpha Centauri.
Yeah. So, thank you so
Awesome.
much. It was a lot of fun. I'm really glad that we could do this, and I'm excited for the future. I feel like there's a lot more stuff to come. So.
Yeah, totally. Can we end with a chant of Om?
Yes, but I feel like that's an amazing thing to end on. So before we get to the Ohms, how can people find you on like social media and all those things?
Yeah, so I really spend most of my time on Instagram at Self-Heal with Liz. A lot of people say self-healing. It's not self-healing. It's self-heal with WITH Liz, LIZ. So, and I'm also on YouTube. You can find me there as well at Self-Heal with Liz. And shouts out to my Patreon. So
That's right.
Check it out.
Become a patronaut.
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much how you can find me.
Awesome.
Send me a message. Let me know you heard me on the podcast.
There we go. Okay, should we do these chants, these Ohms?
Oh yeah. Okay, so bring your palms together. Rub the palms. And connect one hand over the other at your heart center and sit up nice and tall. And so, have you ever chanted Om before?
I don't think so.
Okay, so it's like a A-U-M. So it's like the A is like a ah. And the U is like a ooh. And then the M is like you just ate something really delicious, like a And then we bring all three sounds together with one large deep breath. And one more. Beautiful. And from my big open heart to yours, namaste and satnam.
Namaste. Thank you, Liz.
Yes.
It's been awesome. Thank you for listening to the Spring Street Podcast. If you'd like to support the show, sign up for the Patreon to receive exclusive behind-the-scenes content and check out the sponsor links in the description.